Coronavirus has changed all of our lives, but how will it impact the future? Does this change everything? I'm Chiara Rubotti. On this episode of Does This Change Everything? Air transport. Will the coronavirus end up changing flying forever? Do we need new products and approaches? And how this will be financed? We'll find out from Doramas Calderon, lead economist in the Air, Maritime and Innovative Transport Division at the European Investment Bank. Doramas, does the coronavirus change the future of air transport? The airline industry has been among the hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic. How's that going to change the future of air transport?
Good morning, Chiara. It certainly is a dramatic crisis, a very important crisis, a downturn for the industry. In fact, it's a stop for the industry. But I don't think that the coronavirus pandemic in itself will change the industry. The industry, aviation, air transport is cyclical. It has had a number of downturns over the years, and it's likely to continue to have downturns over the years. This one is certainly a very abrupt and strong and deep one, and it is financially, it puts the industry under perhaps unprecedented strain. But whether it will change the industry in itself, I don't think so. It will even have a smaller effect than 9/11 had. I mean, 9/11. Remember also that we had a situation where airline fleets were grounded, and moreover, on that occasion, the airline industry became the vehicle itself for the terrorist attacks. And we've seen in the activity of the IB over the last few years how that impacted the industry, how it changed the industry by upgrading all the safety and security infrastructure and equipment than the industry has today. We did quite a bit of aircraft acquisition projects at the time. I mean, in terms of aircraft, where we saw that the access to cockpit was the protocols for access to cockpit were severely changed, and there were also additional equipment installed on board. But it was in the airport industry where a lot of change happened through increased security. We added equipment. We even also had to do finance civil works to accommodate the buildings to receive the new baggage scanning and passenger scanning equipment, and even having to do civil works to make sure to enable that equipment to enter the building. So that changed, and we still continue to finance projects where safety and security upgrade in airport continues to be a big part of our business. But in terms of COVID, I don't see at this stage how it will change the way the industry operates in the long term.
How does this crisis affect air transport, and how does that differ from 9/11?
Well, 9/11, the aircraft were grounded for, I think it was a matter of days or only only up to a week or so, and then they slowly started getting into the air. I mean, now we are in a situation where most of the fleet is grounded, and we don't know for how long, and we don't know how the re-entry into activity, how phased it would be, and how quick it would be. In the meantime, obviously, the airlines have to continue maintaining, supporting the aircraft and some of the critical stuff as well. And once activity ramps up, all the thousands and the hundreds of thousands of people that the industry employs have to be brought back into operation. The big difference here is that we don't know how long this downturn is going to last, and the effects on the cash flow of the industry are dramatic, are truly dramatic, and in that sense, it is a more protracted, longer-lasting downturn probably than 9/11 had. I mean, the problem also with 9/11 is that it coincided with two other external shocks, if you wish. I mean, 9/11 coincided with the bursting of it followed shortly after the bursting of the dot-com bubble. So the economies were slowing at the time. And then shortly after 9/11, a year and a half later, we had first we had the build-up to the second Gulf War, which anything to do with war is bad for the industry, and if it affects the price of oil is particularly bad for the aviation industry. So there were a number of follow-on or knock-on effects as well that made the downturn worse than it could have been. Here we will see how this coronavirus crisis affects not only the airline industry, it affects the economy at large. And then it's going to have a knock-on effect on the airline industry as well, because if there is as it looks as if there's going to be a severe economic downturn, that in itself will affect demand for air transport. So probably the traffic build-up that we'll have afterwards is going to be not as quick as it could have been. There is still a lot to be seen in what happens to the air transport industry to see how quickly it recovers. But these are certainly very, very difficult times for the sector.
If airlines go bankrupt, will this accelerate the shift to a low-carbon economy? In other words, are coronavirus and climate action interconnected?
I think they are not interconnected. I mean, the airlines have already gone bankrupt. Perhaps other airlines will go bankrupt. We don't know that. I mean, also because governments are ramping up assistance programs, financial assistance programs for the sector. But in any case, the coronavirus as 9/11, these are shocks which are time determined, 1 or 2 years, 3 years perhaps maximum. And then the industry would, other things being equal, return to more or less normal. Climate change is a different story. Climate change it's a long-term structural change in the way the industry operates. It's a much more longer-term thing. We're talking about pretty much what's up in the technological change in the industry for the next 20, 30, perhaps 40 years. And there, the effect would be that, well, in the airline industry, very efficiently, in my opinion, has started to incorporate the price of carbon and the cost of carbon into its own costs, passing it on to the customers through the ticket price. More will be done. I mean, now next year we'll have the introduction of CORSIA, the UN-sponsored mechanism for offsets in incorporating carbon offsets into the cost of the industry. In the EU, we have the emissions trading scheme where the industry was included a few years ago, and that's starting to work into ticket prices. The effect of that is to make the passenger pay for the cost of carbon. And the effect that will have will slow down the growth in the industry, but the industry will continue growing. Also, it incentivizes, it increases the incentive to airlines to buy equipment that is more fuel efficient, and critically, it incentivizes aircraft manufacturing to produce aircraft which are even cleaner, to accelerate the trend towards cleaner aircraft that the industry has been having over the last few decades. The burning as little fuel as possible is something that the airlines have been wanting to do or have wanted to do for a long time. It's not. The airlines incorporate a lot of the have a strong incentive in order to reduce costs to lower emissions, but the inclusion of the price of carbon into the ticket price has accelerated that incentive, has enhanced that incentive, if you wish. So we are talking about, certainly in Europe, what we used to have growth rates of about 3-4%, long-term rates, a long-term trend of 3-4% of growth in the industry. We will see that coming down to something in the region of 1.5%, perhaps 2% average annual growth per year.
So what new products and approaches might be needed, and how can the European Investment Bank, the EU Bank, help?
Well, the short term, of course, the coronavirus is putting perhaps unprecedented strain in the cash flow of across the value chain of the industry, particularly the airlines, the airports, air traffic management, and then as knock-on as a result, because if the airlines are in financial difficulties, it will also affect the aeronautical industry, of course, the aircraft manufacturing industry. I mean, the EIB continues to operate. We continue to disburse. We continue to look at projects and appraise projects, and wherever there is capital expenditure, we continue to finance those. The EIB in the aviation industry operates through lending to finance capital expenditure, and that will certainly, the continuation of that activity and our availability is part of the solution. But I am afraid that is not the whole story by a large extent. I mean, if the industry cannot generate cash, it cannot repay its debt, but also it cannot remunerate its equity, its own equity. If we base everything on increased debt, all we're doing is leveraging up their balance sheets of a sector that is already quite significantly leveraged. There will have to be something additional to lending. There will have to be some assistance on the equity side via grants, via capital injections, or there are many things that could be done, which the authorities and the industry are intensely discussing as we speak. But certainly the fact that the bank is still available and that the bank continues to disburse loans which have been recently approved, and that we continue to appraise new projects and assist our clients, that's also certainly part of helping the industry get through these terrible times.
Thank you, Doramas Jorge Calderon, lead economist in the Air, Maritime and Innovative Transport Division at the European Investment Bank.
Thank you, Chiara.
This is Does This Change Everything? From the European Investment Bank, the EU Bank.